Here's what we do. If your robot is not the slave and not a good friend, what is left? Well, we'll find out. That's the whole point. This is Robots Should Be Slaves by Joanna J. Bryson. Looks out of the University of Bath. And this was in Close Engagements with Artificial Companions. Looks like a book from 2010. Key Social, Psychological, Ethical, and Design Issues. So this is pre the current current generation of AI that has sort of, upped the game since then. Since this is a good 14 years ago, or 15 years ago. This came out in 2009. You just found the Canadian Journal of Philosophy, and I'm extremely disappointed this is just not called Yeah, and that's actually one of the top journals in philosophy. It's very well respected. I've been rejected from the Canadian Journal of Philosophy. Okay, so here we go, and as always, I'm going to read the paper, try to explain what it means. If you have questions, let me know. Just feel free to ask. And at the end, we give it a rating, and I'm going to put that up on a website. Actually, I can show you the website, because it's up. I mean, there are things that, oh, is it up? Not here? Oh, no, here it is. So there's the Philosophy Roulette review. You can see these are all the reviews. They look something like this. When it is, you can see the video here of me reviewing it. And then, like, you see here are, like, these are the reviews. And it's an emote review. You get to spam some emotes, and that ends up giving it a review. And it's on the website, and then people will see how we felt about their papers. So here we go. Nice checking you out. See you again. Yeah, cool. Yeah, good. Thanks for being here. Everyone from the raid, I appreciate it. Okay, this chapter is a position paper that arose from the Oxford eHorizons Forum on Artificial Companions in Society, Perspectives on the Present and Future. You couldn't find the link for the Philosophy Roulette repository. It's new. I haven't really put it up yet, but that's this. And you can always go check my YouTube. All the reviews are up. All the videos are up on YouTube. Actually, let's do socials. So yeah, you can go check out, like, under the YouTube, it has all my stuff. But yeah, that eventually, I think this will be the my website /PRR will be the Philosophy Roulette review home. Although I may also cross-post it to other places because it's just a text website. But I'm still working on it and in discussions on, getting the details hammered out. I was just talking to Vipers earlier today, and unfortunately, Vipers knows what the fuck he's talking about. And so, like, he has points. And I am likely... No, he's right. It's just I'm operating under, like, this is the best I can do. And yes, you are correct. But, like, it's like, all right, what do you want me to do? That's the best I got. So, you don't know. Vipers is usually right. Oh, well. There's also an OnlyFans, which also utilizes the emojis as content categories. Like I said, Vipers is usually correct. Usually. Alright, so here we go. Continuing. Alright, here the author focuses on the ethics of building and using non-human or artificial companions. The primary... yeah, so biting your own tail, exactly, or eating yourself. Something like that. Ouroboros. The primary topic, or are you coming out of your own mouth? That was always the question. What is exactly happening in the Ouroboros? I don't know. The primary topic of this book is digital companions, not conventional robots, but both pragmatically and ethically the issues are the same. A robot is any artificial entity situated in the real world that transforms perception into action. If a digital assistant listens and talks to a human, it is a robot. It is an agent, an actor living in and changing the world. You see, you wouldn't have had to say this now. They're trying to, set up their, like, justification. No one would be questioning this at this point. Author's thesis is that robots should be built, marketed, and consistently considered legally as slaves, not companion peers. Mom says it's all my fault. Are there any general findings that you could name after reading various texts from other disciplines? I'm not sure what you mean. There's plenty of named theories from other disciplines, like the prisoner's dilemma is a game theory result that gets discussed in philosophy. So that would be more of a mathematical or economic thing, but it also gets discussed in logic and philosophy. So, like that. I mean, there's plenty of stuff from, like, psychology that gets transferred over. But I mean, you'd have to be more specific, Mom. Like, let me know, like, what you're interested in. Viper says, crap, too late, but I just found a paper by a guy at the University of Louisville. Oh, yeah. I know, like, some people there, you know, write papers. It's true. Next time. And, Vipers, I think you've looked this up, or was it somebody else? Like, the reason me and Aris found each other on Twitch is because I read one of his papers. And I used to email all the authors, and I sent this guy the review, and he's like, you know, thanks for checking out my review. I also stream on Twitch. And that's how I found Aris. So you can go find him in my back catalog. You'll link in Discord? Okay, cool. Tiny says, psychology isn't real. You read it on Yahoo Answers. Yes, and everyone knows Yahoo Answers is the best place for all philosophy. Okay. Digital agent. Yeah, so this is actually kind of interesting. So this is a little bit older, but they're just like, robots should be considered legally as slaves. Which is very, a little spicy there. Digital agents not only change the world by affecting the people they converse with, they also communicate what they learn to others directly or indirectly through shared databases or others' agents. Agents transmit, create, and may even destroy information, including human opinions and reputations. Yeah, so this happens a lot, where you can get yourself into trouble dealing with computers. It happens a lot. Digital agents may use the internet. You see, look at this. The internet is capitalized here. To actively purchase goods or services, thus causing the movement of physical objects as well as ideas. Yeah, there was an old art piece that used to sell itself on eBay and get itself transported places, and then people would put it back, and then it would resell itself on eBay. Once someone bought it and moved it, it would resell itself, and finally it got itself sent to a shitty part of town and someone destroyed it. You have any opinions on Sean Carroll, the theoretical physicist? As far as I know, he's a competent physicist. Usually people who are in other disciplines, I don't listen to them when they say things about philosophy. I find mostly it's ill-informed and they don't really understand the issues. But like as far as he goes, I think he's trying to be a good actor. So I mean, I have no problem with him. Mom says, the more I read, the more I have the feeling that we are basically all working on the same progress as far as the understanding of the world view is concerned, and from that new understanding of the human image. People are people, Mom. And so a lot of us have the same problems. That said, there's a lot of like culture matters, like history matters. These things like your experience matters. And so, yes, we are all working on what it is to be human, but there's a lot of different experiences. So it's like, you know, it's a matter of like how you're viewing the situation. Are we all like working towards what it is to be a better human, or are we all trying to find what it is to like make a life that we ourselves are good with? And very different answers if there's one sort of like thing to be human and we're all going that way, or are we all trying to be unique individual snowflakes that are beautiful on our own? It's like, well, okay. But like, it's kind of more it's showing more about you than about what's going on in philosophy or the world. I mean, we are all human, but there's a lot to be done either way. Yeah. And it's like, it's not a bad thing to like think we're all working together. It isn't. Just what it is. Tiny says he's been trying to close the gap between theoretical physics and philosophy. His job title even reflects that. Well, good on him. Yeah, it's very hard. And the problems that we have in philosophy of science and philosophy of physics are very, very like difficult problems. They're not getting solved anytime soon. It's not like we're going to be like, oh yeah, we worked out science and it all works with philosophy. And it's not how things happen. Progress in philosophy is asking better questions, having more interesting questions. That we keep coming up with. And so the idea that we're going to solve or close the gap, it's like, yes, but there's just going to be more questions after that. And so like, I'm not even sure that like, you can really solve, like, we're not in a position to like close the gap or solve anything. We don't really have, like, that's like sort of thinking we're at like sort of the end of physics, and every time we've ever thought we're at the end of physics, we're at the end of science, something comes along and be like, oh, we didn't really quite understand what was going on. Last time we thought this was happening was at the end of the 1800s. We thought we were like, oh yeah, we just figured out some of these weird probabilities and these weird like wave particle things and we'll be fine. And then we had all this quantum physics happen, upend everything, and so we're finally coming to grasp with some of that stuff. But then we're now going back to like, did we really have all the problems solved from the 1800s? No, we didn't. And so we've got lots of problems still. So good on him for trying. I don't think philosophy's not going anywhere. It's been around a long time. Okay. Okay, back to paper. Finally, some companion agents really are conventional metal robots with legs or wheels. Such robots can do all the things a digital robot can do and also produce direct physical impact on the world, from holding hands or washing windows to breaking dishes and falling downstairs. One aspect of direct physical impact is an increased sense of presence for the humans. We are, after all, animals with evolved facilities for perception and automatically provide assessment and rewards for social situations. Hippo says, oh no, sorry, Viper says, now we have dark matter, dark energy, dark Brandon. Exactly, just put dark in front of everything. Samanon says, I never understand why these kinds of papers don't ever focus on the, quote, just don't build minds with deliberate personhood option. We have no idea what personhood is, Samanon. And we don't actually know what that is, and so you can't just not do it because it's like saying, well, don't do the thing you don't know how, you don't know what it is. Well, you don't know that you don't know. So it's like, you don't know, we don't know. And so it's like, well, and people want the personhood too, because if they think that if they had a cool, like enough smart stuff in there, then it would be able to do all the things a person would do, and then they would basically, be God making people, and they could be, control it all. So yeah. Yeah, just Frank, exactly, just bear children. Yeah, or you could do it the old-fashioned way, as Frank says, just have kids. So, yeah. Omnifist says, I think robots are not peers is the key part. The U.S. Supreme Court is now wording decisions with corporate having rights like people, personhood. Paper is very similar, but takes a reverse opinion correct. I don't know if that's where this paper is going, but it seems like, yeah, in the eyes of the U.S. government, or at least the law, corporations have rights like people, and so they have certain rights, not all the rights. It says the old joke goes, I'll believe corporations are people when Texas puts one to death. Again, yes, but like they're treating robots here like slaves. That would give them different rights and position within the world. So I think this is the corporations or people they have these kinds of rights. Slaves still have rights, but it's just going to be a different level of rights. More human than human, exactly. Getting that good old cyberpunk future. The question the author focuses on in this chapter is what is the correct metaphor we should use when thinking about our relationship with robot companions. By turns in this article, I will use two different definitions of correct. First, there's the question of is accurate. What are we really producing? And second is the question of what is appropriate. What should we try to build and how should we sell it? Someone says, really, I'd rather not like Google build an omnipotent artificial mind regardless of the slavery ethics. Yeah, but the way our current society set up is basically let the corporations run amok and then try to clean it up after. And it's like, yeah, we'd like to live in a world where there was, we wouldn't just give the keys to the kingdom to like Microsoft, Google, Facebook, and all the, and like Apple and stuff, who have all the tech power and abilities, and nowadays, Nvidia. But like, yeah, but that's not the society we live in. Tiny Hippo says he's really been trying to bridge the gap for 10 years. He's one of the top theoretical physicists in the world. He's trying to incorporate philosophy, so it's worth something. Yeah, it's definitely worth something. He says it's been incredibly difficult trying to bridge the gap between physics and philosophy in the past decade. I'm not surprised. Philosophy is hard. He might even be an excellent top-level physicist. That doesn't make him a top-level philosopher. Like, you can be good at one thing and not good at something else. Like, I am... Like I said, not good at politics. You don't want me on your political... you don't want me, like, trying to design, like, a political scheme that would work. It's like, I might be good at philosophy, but, like, that doesn't make me good at politics. So it's like, if he's a good physicist, that doesn't mean he's just going to be good at philosophy or even philosophy of physics. So, yeah. But, I mean, like I said, I hope he comes up with something, but I'm not holding my breath for people outside my subject area coming up with, like, great ideas for my subject area. You should Google Roko's Basilisk. There's a comforting big story on the topic. You mean that little bitch Roko's Basilisk? Yeah. Yeah. So someone on was like, "Don't do that. You'll hurt people." But I always make fun of Roko's Basilisk because, I mean, come at me, Roko. You don't exist. Tiny Hippo says, he said physicists are very dismissive and at the same time philosophers are equally dismissive to these ideas. It's hard to get people to meet in the middle. Yeah. I mean, again, people, they want to defend their own little discipline. And that's kind of how it goes. I expect people are like that, but that's how people are. Yeah. Robot-oriented ethics are fundamentally different from ethics involving other intelligent entities because they are, by definition, artifacts of our own culture and intelligence. Perhaps, unfortunately, we actually have almost as much control over other species and sometimes people as we do over robots. We, as a culture, do regularly decide how much and many resources, including space and time, we willingly allocate to others. But biological species hold exquisitely complicated and unique minds and cultures. If these minds and cultures are eliminated, it would be impossible to fully replicate. In the case of robots, the minds are not there yet, and the culture they would affect, if we choose to allow them to, will be our own. Yeah, so this is the issue. In 2010, they weren't having like these really clever ones. Now people are being like, "Oh my god, they're so smart." Yeah, that's true. Some people do take it very seriously. People have to take some of these thought experiments less seriously. Like, if you're getting freaked out by Roko's Basilisk, you need to touch grass. Get out and touch some grass. Like, it's not good. Alright, so, why slaves? Slaves are normally defined as people you own. In recent centuries, due to the African slave trade, slavery came to be associated with racism and also with endemic cruelty. In the past, though, and in some places still today, slaves were often members of the same race or even nation that had simply lost private status. This happened generally as an outcome of war, but sometimes as an outcome of poverty. Excesses of cruelty are greatest when actors are able to dehumanize those in power and thus remove their own empathy for their subordinates. Such behavior can be seen even within contemporary communities of citizens when a person in power considers their very social standing as an indication of a specialness not shared with subordinates. Yeah, this is always a fucking problem. We've got all these rich people and they think they're special because they've got money and power, and they're not that special. Our culture has, for good reason, become extremely defensive against actions and beliefs associated with such dehumanization. Omnifist says people have to quit wanting to defend their own when it hurts others' peoples. It can get out of hand. Yeah, easier said than done, though. I mean, I agree, but sure. Mom says, do you know Hans-Peter Durr? He worked for Heisenberg and was interested in what consequences finding would have for our view of humanity. Might be interesting because you also bridge the gap between philosophy and could be interesting for you. Yeah, that's cool. I don't know who that person is either. Durr, you say. Or Durr. Don't know how to pronounce German. But surely dehumanization is only wrong when it's applied to someone who really is human. Given the very obvious human beings that have been labeled inhuman in the global culture's very recent past, and now, many seem to have grown wary of applying the label at all. For example, Dennett argues that we should allocate the rights of agency to anything that appears to be the best reasoned about as acting in an intentional manner because the cost of making a mistake and trivializing a sentient being are too great. Dennett says we are safer to err on the side of caution. Andrew says, so they're claiming that robots should be slaves, but being slaves imply being a person by their own definition. Yeah, this looks like how they're splitting the, this is the real fine line they're saying. Yes, they're slaves, but we have to treat them like actual agents in that case, like slave agents. So this is how they're sort of like splitting a real fine line here. Omnifitus says, it sounds like we can just call the homeless in USA today slaves and everything else makes sense. Yeah, I mean, the US got its problems, and basically the idea that you can be sent to jail and forced to work, then you're slaves because of like some legal problem. And there's a lot of problems here in the US about that. And we've been using the term wage slaves here because the cost of living has gone so high that you're basically not going to make enough money ever to get out of dead-end jobs, and you're just going to be doing the same shit over and over and over. And so it's like, yeah, that's how the economy is. And so is that a proper use of the term? I don't know. I'm not like, I don't know about that stuff, but like you get the sense that you're not going anywhere in many jobs and you're just going to be doing the same thing for the next 40 fucking years and making someone else rich. So it's like, yeah. Omnifist says, my rent in minimum wage is 93 hours a week. Exactly. And see, this is the problem. We don't have a a society that is working for the people at this point. Viper says the whole info hazard thing came from someone who ranted about them after reading the post. That's it, an internet commentator. Yeah, commenter. There have been 0 recorded instances of anyone being disturbed by the thought, but hey, some guy on the internet said it, so it must be true. Yeah, these are like psychosomatic things. People are just, working themselves up. That is a problem. People do work themselves up into like, they get themselves all worked up and they don't feel so good. So it's a problem. But again, if you're reading something about some theoretical future basilisk, chill the fuck out if that's freaking you out. Like, it's just it's a fantasy story and you're getting freaked out by a fantasy. It's like, yeah, it's like you gotta put some perspective on what you read. Okay. Author says Dennett's position is certainly easy to be sympathetic with, and not only because such generosity is almost definitionally nice. As I discussed below, there are many reasons people want to be able to build robots that they owe ethical obligation to. But the position overlooks the fact that there are also costs associated with allocating agency this way. I describe these costs below as well. But first, returning to the question of definition, when I say robots should be slaves, I by no means robots should be people you own. What I mean to say is robots should be servants you own. Is that better? I don't know. Having several fundamental claims of the paper. No, there are several fundamental claims of this paper. 1, having servants is good and useful and provided no one is dehumanized. So yeah, no dehumanized person. A robot can be a servant without being a person. It is right and natural for people to own robots. It would be wrong to let people think that their robots are persons. So yes, they're keeping the robots are not persons, but they are servants, so they are like intelligent, like agent thingies. Our correlated claim to the final one above is that it would also be wrong to build robots we owe personhood to. Yeah, so that means don't make like actual human intelligence robots. Author will not discuss that point at length here. I have at least attempted to make the case before, but this corollary follows naturally from my final claim above, so I will return to it briefly towards the conclusion of this chapter. They used to define black and indigenous people using the same words. Yes. And so this is a very dangerous sort of definitional thing because, as Anne is pointing out, that they said, well, the black and indigenous people, they're not people, they're servants. And so it's like, well, who gets to claim what counts as the persons? Like this sort of like issue here. So it's like, oh, it's a robot can be a servant without being a person. It's like, yes, well, an indigenous person can be a servant without being a person. That's the shitty position. So, like, again, right here, this is getting very, this is a little dangerous. It's more than a little dangerous. This is a dangerous way of going about things. It's a social construct, yeah. Omnifin says the indigenous people were treated like other fauna animals. Yeah. So when you start doing that, especially in this definitional way, it makes it very easy because it just goes back to the old if you're not one of us, you don't count as rational. If you're not a white male, you're not like a rational person. Like then you exclude women, or if you're not Roman, you're not a citizen of ancient Greek, then you're a barbarian, and then you're not rational and you don't count. And so this is just saying, well, okay, whatever. So the point that the author is trying to make here is that you don't want to be so far into just always granting everything agency as to whatever, because they're going to say there's costs with that. But again, they're saying, well, for the case of robots, it's okay. So, yeah. How they split this is not a good enough definition here. But like, they're going to have to do more work if they want to be even somewhat reasonable. And I'm already at the 2-hour mark. Oh dear. Why we get the metaphor wrong? Mephitor? Melodor? I don't know what I was going to say. There is, in fact, no question about whether we own robots. We design, manufacture, own, and operate robots. They are entirely our responsibility. We determine their goals and behavior either directly or indirectly through specifying their intelligence, or even more indirectly by specifying how they acquire their own intelligence. But at the end of every indirection lies the fact that there would be no robots on this planet if it weren't for deliberate human decisions to create them. The principal question is whether robots should be considered strictly as servants, as objects subordinate to our own goals that are built with the intention of improving our lives. Others in this volume argue that artificial companions should play roles more often reserved for a friend or peer. My argument is this: given the inevitability of our ownership of robots, neglecting that they are essentially in our service would be unhealthy and inefficient. Okay, so they're saying it's inefficient and unhealthy? Neglecting that they are essentially in our service would be unhealthy and inefficient. I mean, they had these old arguments for justifying slavery in the U.S. It's saying, well, you're going to ruin the economy. It's very inefficient to get rid of slaves. Like, that's not a good argument. Someone on says the argument doesn't hold up. We cause them to exist just applies as much to children. Yeah, exactly. Like, you can apply this way too generally. Okay. More importantly, it invites inappropriate decisions such as misassignations of responsibility or misappropriations of resources. Yeah, you don't want to like give robots extra resources that they don't need, because they're not going to like grow up. Like, they don't need resources to grow. But I mean, where's the inefficiency? Like, it seems weird, like this argument, because I mean, they're saying essentially in our service. This is already begging the question right here, because they're saying this is what they need to argue for, not what they're defining. Are robots essentially in our service? Is that their only thing? Yes, they would not be here without us, but as someone on says, so are kids. I mean, granted, there's like a biological drive that you could say, well, isn't really in our control, and so it's like sort of a biological inevitability that the kids are going to be here, but we end up having to take care of them. And you could say, well, they are in our service, but like, according to who or what, you'd need some other theory, but so does the author here. Okay, many researchers want to build AI that would have moral agency, that is, to which we would owe ethical obligations as we do a person. Helmrich suggests that this desire to create artificial life is most present in researchers that are middle-aged males with a fixation on an individual capacity for creating life. Yeah, so like, you know, single guys that can't have kids, they're the ones that want to create artificial life. While there seems to be a certain empirical plausibility of Helmrich's hypothesis, in my own experience, many people who are not themselves roboticists or middle-aged still seem to have a shockingly strong tendency to believe they owe ethical obligations to robots. I was astonished during my own experience of working on a completely non-functional humanoid robot in the 90s, how many well-educated colleagues volunteered without prompting, immediately on seeing or even hearing about the robot, that unplugging such a robot would be unethical. Less anecdotally, pop culture contains many examples of heroic, conscious robots examining the worth of their own lives. For example, in the original Star Wars: A New Hope, there is a running theme concerning the slavery and even torture of robots, which is at times explicitly voiced by the droid character C-3PO. This theme is not resolved in that movie, nor is it so prominent in any of the Star Wars sequels. However, in Blade Runner, The Bicentennial Man, AI, Artificial Intelligence, and several episodes of Star Trek: The Next Generation, featuring the robot crew member Data, the central question is what it takes for a robot to be a moral agent. Traditional literary criticism of science fiction holds that the artistic examination of alien or artificial sentience is a mechanism for examining, by proxy, humanity and the human condition. However, many producers and consumers of science fiction consider themselves futurists, examining future rather than, or along with, present moral dilemmas. Whatever the artistic intention, from my experience as a roboticist, it seems that a large portion of science fiction consumers are comfortable with the conclusion that anything that perceives, communicates, and remembers is owed ethical obligation. In fact, many people seem not only comfortable with this idea, but proud of having come to this realization and willing to angrily defend their perspective. I mean, this paper is equidistant between now and the mid-90s, yeah. And I don't know if you get a feel for this, but I'm getting like the feel of a while ago now from this paper. It seems just very sort of like hokey almost. I don't think the philosophy is necessarily good or bad. I'm just saying the feel of the paper is hokey because it feels like from a older time when like these issues weren't as pressing. Like if anyone doesn't know Globus the Elder does AI and robot and like tech news like daily, basically, sometimes like twice a day. But it's like this is like a pressing issue for us now. This is like, you know, sci-fi. Let's go look at these older like sci-fi stuff. So it's like, yeah. Omnifizz says everything with people versus people has gone to xenophobia. With robots, that's okay. You agree with the author, yeah. It speaks much more about the hypothetical. An elegant paper for a more civilized age. Yes, Vipers. But yeah, so this is all feeling very hypothetical, as someone on is commenting. Yeah, so nowadays it's more pressing because the AIs have, you know, jumped up in like their capabilities since when this was written. Bryson and Keim, 1998, have argued that both deep and ethical concerns for robots and unreasonable fear of them results from uncertainty about human identity. Our identity, yeah, see, like talking about human identity, it's like, no, it seems like more like we're just gonna die if we make too powerful AIs at this point. Okay, anyway, our identity confusion results in somewhat arbitrary assignments of empathy. For example, contemporary cultures, including some scientific ones, often consider language both necessary and sufficient for human-like intelligence. Yeah, I mean, that's the old Turing test. Further, the term conscious, by which we mostly seem to mean, quote, mental state accessible to verbal report, end quote, is heavily confounded with the term soul, meaning roughly, quote, that aspect of an entity deserving ethical concern, end quote. Thus, for example, animal rights debates often focus on whether animals are conscious, with the explicit assumption that consciousness automatically invokes ethical obligation. Of course, neither the term consciousness nor soul is precisely or universally defined. Rather, these terms label concepts formed by accretion over millennia as we have attempted to reason about, analyze, and describe ourselves. Helmrich's diagnosis, then, I would see as just a part of a much wider problem. It is not only that a few prominent middle-aged male artificial life researchers may have fantasies of autonomously creating human-like life. Entire cultures, including perhaps the global one, could be expected to take pride in such an achievement as they did in the conquest of space or in colonialism and empire. But this desire is a symptom of a larger confusion about whether AI could or should be a surrogate for human life and human responsibility. Since this book examines artificial companions, the emphasis of this chapter is on determining the best role for robots in the household, the cost and benefits of different attitudes towards robots at the individual and commercial level. However, I also extend the discussion to contemporary military robots, partly because these already exist, so we can see their initial institutional impact. Okay. Costs and benefits of misidentification with AI. The individual level. Yeah, so this is what they're saying, is basically like, you can't just grant the AIs a lot of stuff because all of a sudden that's going to cost humans too much. I don't know if this is a great idea because it's basically saying, well, if we had, you know, more resources, then we could just grant the AIs all the credence or all the like stuff they want. Like, does that even make sense? We don't even know what the AIs are. So it's like, well, just in the absence of knowledge, do we just like, you know, give away all of our resources? Weird. Well, not weird. Just seems like a default position that is unjustified. The individual level. Over-identification with AI can lead to a large range of category errors, which can significantly bias decision-making. Okay, so they're taking it a decision-making thing. Category errors, and which lead to decision-making problems. Someone says, give rights is synonymous to assign responsibilities to everyone else. Fair, but like, that's fine. Like, you have more to say on that? Like, could be interesting. Viper says totally off topic, but news headlines just prompted me to ask what the fuck out loud. RFK Jr. says he was behind mystery of dead bear dumped in Central Park with bicycle. Yeah, welcome to the United States of America. Apparently he had done something years ago about with this. Yeah. I'm losing the ability to drink water. I'm like our politicians. I saw something about that. Like there was it started to like circulate rumors that he was behind some dead bear and yeah. I guess he's confirming it now. Yay, United States of America. I wonder if it was before or after the brainworm. Does it really matter? Does it really matter? I mean, you gotta remember the Kennedys were rich and powerful, so they're not getting in trouble. So I could see, like, you know, maybe he hit a bear with a car or something, or maybe like he shot the bear, and then he still denies eating a dog though. Hey Brian, what's up? I don't know. I don't know anything about that, but like I could see him like trying to hide a dead body. Like Kennedys are known to have done things. Not the best things, depending on which. Yeah, some of the Kennedys have done some dumb shit. So it's like maybe he was trying to get rid of like the evidence of like hitting a bear or something, and he dumped it in Central Park. Okay, but anyway, the author is saying that like over-identifying AI around can lead to category errors, which can bias decision making. This is true at decision making levels ranging from the individual to the national and supranational. Already, we have seen commercial willingness to exploit human empathy for AI objects such as Tamagotchi pets. Yeah, see how old this is? Tamagotchis. You have a cute little digital pet, and they were selling it. It was kind of like a game. Excuse me. Like every other potential distraction from radios to children, Tamagotchi have led to fatalities from automobile accidents. But there are more important policy considerations than the occasional sensational headline. Yeah, this is really stupid. This is basically a handheld game. And he's like, oh my god. It's like, yeah, you had a handheld game and distracted people. And baby, people should not be playing their game when crossing the street or like when driving cars or whatever. RFK Jr. denies eating a dog following bombshell Vanity Fair report. Yeah, we've got the couch fucker JD Vance and the dog eater RFK Jr. What's up, Chocolate Mint? When there are several hard disk drives, one is characterized as the master and the other as slaves. Yeah, but like that's just a terminology thing. Not a big deal. Yeah, the original Pokemon Go, exactly. And like we could just change that to something else, Chocolate Mint. So, I mean, you're using old terminology, but, like, nothing hangs on that. Like, no one thinks of the disk drives as actually having moral rights. Bring members to avoid paying an extra wife. Brilliant move with the help of a doctor. Oh, interesting. It was so strategic. I didn't know that. I'm omnifitus. Someone on says, people by existing imply moral responsibilities for everyone else, take care of those in need, avoid action that would cause harm, etc. Misassignment of person is in a way a drastic removal of rights from other people, a potential error approaching the same magnitude as misassigning absence of personhood. Yeah, I think that's part of what Anne was saying too, is that they're trying, like, this whole thing is blurring all the work we've done to not fuck up, like, with when it comes to other people and not giving other people rights. So yeah, don't forget Vance's thing for dolphin porn. I didn't know he had a thing for dolphin porn. Good for Vance. Good for Vance for admitting that he has a thing for dolphins. The goal of Tamagotchi was to keep them alive. They were just training millennials to cope with modern world. Yeah, that's kind of funny. E.E. Cummings? E. Okay, so at the personal level, the cost of identification with AI should be measured in 1, the absolute amount of time and other resources an individual allocate to a virtual companion, 2, what other endeavors that individual sacrifices to make that allocation, and 3, whether the trade-off and benefits the individual derives from their engagement with the AI outweigh the costs or benefits to both that individual and anyone else who might have been affected by the neglected alternative endeavors. This just sounds like an addiction. Like, this is just all addiction stuff. Well, how much time are you spending on this thing we don't like? You know? It's like, are you spending too much time playing video games? What other things could you have been doing? What other things have you lost out on? Are your relationships getting neglected because you play too many video games? So I don't think this is a particularly specific to AI. They're just, you know, get off my lawn with your newfangled devices sort of thing here. Omnifin says engineering terminology because they're an engineer. Master slaves leading and following. Yeah, that's what I was trying to say. Like, it's just a terminological thing. There isn't anything that is riding on that like there's nothing social riding on that definition. Okay. JD Vance's online reputation graduates from character lover to dolphin porn enthusiast. Look at that. He moved up from an inanimate object to something that probably has sentience. Good for JD. It's got to be hard to be like... It's got to be hard to be JD Vance. Like, it's just such a fucked up, weird shit. Oh, well. This final point above... the final point about the trade-off is somewhat convoluted, so I want to clarify why I make so many qualifications. This is not that convoluted. It's just too general. It's not specific, author. Their argument in this chapter derived primarily from the default liberal progressive belief that the time and attention of any human being is a precious commodity that should not be wasted on something of no consequence. Yeah, again, who's saying this is of no consequence? How would you know? This is begging the question. Goodbye and thanks for all the fish. Yeah. Well, if you're leaving by, or if you're quoting the Douglas Adams dolphins leaving, then good reference. However, life is more complicated than simple principles. Clearly, some people are socially isolated, and it has long been demonstrated that otherwise isolated elderly people really are healthy with empathetic, social, non-human companions, particularly dogs. One fun thing about this is my childhood friend, her mom, is one of the first people that did the fundamental research. Before this, like this is 1990, she did the fundamental research that showed that dogs actually are better for our health. So like this is someone that used to live like a few miles in that direction. Like that's where they were, over there. So it's always nice to see her still getting referenced. Okay, also well in evidence that, yeah, my childhood friend's mom, that's what it was. Also well in evidence is that some people sometimes engage in harmful antisocial behavior. There is at least preliminary evidence that increased internet access directly correlates to the recent significant decreases in levels of sexual assault. So... Wait, so this is good. So that more internet access means less sexual assault. That's great. Yeah, hoo boy, exactly. This is what I mean. This is getting real dated. Thus, it is at least possible that in some cases the cost of over-identification with AI could in fact be negative. In other words, becoming overly emotionally attached with a robot may in some cases be beneficial, both for the individual and society. Yeah, so this is making shit up at this point. This is just like, oh my god. Gooners are too exhausted for sexual assault? Yes, exactly. So they're saying maybe these things are great because you can get your sexual frustrations out on a robot and it's like, whatever. Lumpy says, the internet, that thing we don't understand. Yeah. Lumpy, how you doing? I hope you're well. I hope your vacation has been gone well. I think you commented in Ivan's briefly earlier on it, but I was doing other stuff. Okay. But returning to, oh yeah, and you were here, you said you were writing philosophy with your fountain pen. Thumbs up. Yeah, so this is the old, any new tech is going to change society and we don't know what it is and it's scary. Yeah, you petted an alpaca, that's great. Yeah, talk about a series of tubes. Thank you for the shout out. Yeah, Lumpy is a Minecraft and chatting streamer. Been doing some like philosophy chats and economics chats and all sorts of stuff, but you know, they're making a cool fantasy world in Minecraft and then you chat alongside. Tried to. Well, okay. Hey. Everyone starts off somewhere and you get better at things. Like, I am very afraid to go back and look at early philosophy roulettes, although I could easily do that. And because I mean, I think all philosophy roulettes, except for one or two, are that go back to like the first episodes. It starts, I think, from episode 2, and I may have deleted one along the way. But like that means there's hundreds from 2019 era, and that's just scary. So you know, you get better at stuff. At least I like to think I'm better at it now. Yeah. Okay. The internet is new and scary, and what are we going to do about these new and scary things? Okay, but returning to the default liberal progressive view, my concern is that humans have only a finite amount of time and attention for forming social relationships. And increasingly we find ways to satiate this drive with non-productive faux social entertainment. Look at that. They hate Twitch. This is called faux social entertainment. That's what this is. This is the early what was it? Parasocial friendships, social. Putnam documents the massive decline in what he calls social capital in the 20th century. Although Putnam originally ascribed this decline to increasingly dynamic societies and a lack of bridging individuals between communities, his own further research failed to sustain this theory. A simpler explanation seems likely, that the drive to socialize is increasingly being expended on lower risk faux social activities such as radio, television, and interactive computer games. Exactly. These interactive computer things, they're evil. Each of these technologies has progressively increased the similarity between individual entertainment and the true interpersonal interactions. And you can see their bias right here. They're calling certain ones true interpersonal interactions. Of course, you can have away from computer ones, but that doesn't mean that the interactions you have online are not like real or true. They're just of a different type. And I don't want to discount the away from computer interactions. They're very important, but like this is a very simplistic take that they have. You like the title, It's Good Bait? Yes, Decarlism. This is a well-formed sort of rhetoric here. I'm not loving their philosophy, but like the rhetoric is good. But again, this is sort of dated now, and I feel like they're getting a little bit flamed by me because they were early to a topic, and I don't think they quite understood where it was going. Yeah, provocative. Lumpy says, we toured the countryside south of MTL for a day and rented a car. At the end of the day, we got to the alpaca farm, and then I said, okay, let's pay the $10 and pet one, to which Muffin said, I don't want it. They're dirty. I took good pictures of them. We can go. I laughed and then we left, but I got close to pet one through the fence. Oh, there you go. And when it saw we had no good food to give, it scoffed and walked away. It was her idea to go see the alpaca. Yes, but you got to pet an alpaca. That's so cool. Was it soft and fluffy? In fact, more recent online social networking has actually reintroduced a human element to the technological entertainment. Facilitating human-to-human interactions could be a component of a domestic robot's behavioral repertoire too. However, this publication is irrelevant to the main argument of this complication is irrelevant to the main argument of the present chapter. I'm considering here autonomous robots, actors in their own right. Virtual or physical avatars being teleoperated by their owners, friends, or family are already slaves in such an extreme sense that I don't believe anyone would argue that they deserve moral agency. Such robots called avatars perform precisely the actions determined for them by the people they represent and have no internal motivation whatsoever. See, this is okay. So if I was a VTuber, would you think the VTube character deserved any moral standing as opposed to the person behind the VTube character? And of course you'd say no, it's the person running the VTuber, not the VTube character, not the VTuber itself. The VTube character itself, the avatar. Your initial statement may have been leading. Yeah, that's fair. It's a question you think is relevant to Twitch when chat is interaction is parasocial and when it's just social. Yeah, we're hashing this out as we go. Like, this is really like the forefront of this sort of issue. How much interaction, like, do you actually get social interaction on Twitch versus a lot of stuff? And I've said this before, and other people say it, that basically during the pandemic, like, Twitch really helped a lot of people, including myself, to, you know, like, socialize and not lose our minds. So, yeah. So it was something. Viper says, facilitating human-human interactions. Calm the fuck down, Linda. Dave, say what's bothering you. Yeah. So, but this is part of the thing. It's like, you can, the old style of only having to interact in person, that doesn't have, the world doesn't have to be that way. Like, you can do things other ways now, and you shouldn't just prioritize the old way just because it's the old way and that's all that we used to have. Stopped at Vineyard and tasted their products. We laughed a lot. Muffin was alright. That's fun. Omnifist says, are you addicted to podcasting? Whatever keeps you happy, fed, and sheltered. Although podcasting really is a one-way interaction, JD Vance is going to be important in the future if he survives and does not turn evil. He said a series of tubes. Yeah, well, that could be a joke, but yeah. That could be the internet or a bunch of gun barrels. What a metaphor. $10 to fill an alpaca borders on prostitution. I don't know if it's... That's good price for prostitution, then. Farsha says, I can't say where the exact line is, but I do know it's definitely parasocial when you have your dick in your hand. Well, there you go. So now you know that it's parasocial. Unreal says, for at least some autistic people, online social interaction can go a lot better than in-person ones. Absolutely. And so that's the issue. It's, not everyone has the same capabilities as everyone else. People are differently abled. And so these interactions may be the best interactions for some people at some time. And so you don't want to be like, well, the other ones are the true ones. Well, fuck you. Like, other people deal with the world differently, and so you should not discount their experience. Yeah. Well paid alpaca. I hope they pay the taxes. I had an alpaca hat, and I'm really sad I don't know where it went, but like it's I think it was getting kind of old and ratty though. And we find people that it fits better with us. Yeah. I mean, of course. Just because you live in an area doesn't mean you're going to have friends that are local to you. This has always been the case where people have had to go find friends out in the world. So actually, and it was a great hat. It was a great hat. It was whatever they had done, it was really soft. Alpaca wool items are so pricey, $80 for mittens. Yeah, that was the greatest part. Like I found it was like a Peruvian or like Argentinian store in like the Southwest when I was on vacation, and they had these hats and they were great. And I got them for like 2 of them, or maybe one or 2 of them for like not a lot of money, and I can't get another one. It was so good. It was a nice hat. Okay. What are the institutional level costs? The individual level social cost of misidentification with robots is the economic and human consequence of time, money, and possibly other finite resources being given to a robot that would otherwise be spent directly on humans and human interaction. Okay, and we know this is just kind of false now. We do this anyway because it's what we like to do. We want to do this. Like, come on, man. Throw your Twix or a coin or whatever it is. So this is just them being like, get off my lawn. That's all they said. But of course there are bad interactions, like addictions. You can get stuff, and that's a problem, but that has nothing to do with AI or anything else. You do but I do need a cashier to take your order at McDick's. Yeah. No, you probably don't need a cashier. There's going to be those automated things to just like ATMs for that now. You need to write to Aris about your musings. I need his blessing before you post anywhere to his Discord, really? Yeah, go ahead. Ask him. He will give you good feedback, probably. But it is possible that in addition... so the cultural or national level costs obviously include the combined individual costs of the citizens of that culture or nation. And, I don't know a lot about this, but there are, apparently people in, Japan that just sort of cut themselves off from society. I think maybe Korea, too. And so that is a national level social cost. That is not an AI problem. That is a different problem in society. The AI may exacerbate it, may not. It may be something else. But, this is definitely an issue. But I don't think this has anything to do with AI. So many boomers, so many lawns. Yeah, it's true. Well, everyone, it happens to a lot of people. It's like, back in my day. It's like, shut the fuck up. Who cares how it was 20 years ago? Hikikomori? Yeah. There we go. Thank you. So, yeah, it's like people who just sort of reject the society and they just stay in their room all day online. And it's like, this is the internet. It's not AI, though, that may be doing it. But I don't know this stuff. You can look it up. Thank you, Vipers. Okay, but it is possible that in addition, similar errors might also arise at a higher institutional level. I'm not particularly concerned that the enthusiasm for the creation of life or of superhuman, super obedient robot systems might actually attract government research funding or legislative support. However, both the USA and the European Union have openly made research on autonomous cognitive systems a high funding priority. In the US, this has been accompanied by both funding and the media attention on making certain the systems in the US, mostly battlefield robotics, are capable of moral decision making. Government-funded robotic professors are openly suggesting that robots might make more ethical decisions than humans in some battlefield situations. You looked her up. She's an old lady with gray hair. Okay, yeah, so maybe the get off her lawn thing is apt here. But how was she in 2009? Maybe she was young and strapping then. Well, the author has no problem with the use of artificial intelligence to complement and improve human decision-making, suggesting that AI itself makes the decision is a problem. Legal and moral responsibility for robots' actions should be no different than they are for any other AI system, and these are the same for any other tool. Ordinarily, damage caused by a tool is the fault of an operator, and benefit from it is to the operator's credit. If the system malfunctions due to poor manufacturing, then the fault may lay with the company that built it, and the operator can sue to resolve this. Okay, Lumpy says, but various parts of society are evolving at such a different pace, and so mainstream culture can feel very alienating to young people. Our cartoonist once quipped, "Oh, you want me to put down my book and have a real conversation with you? Okay, but can you be more interesting than my book or the whole of the internet for that matter?" Yeah, and that's the issue. It's like the people that surround you may not be anyone you want to deal with. And so, and yeah, and there's varying parts of society now where there's a whole lot, you can go down rabbit holes in any sort of like different area. And so it's like you can go do fascinating reading and all sorts of stuff, which we did not have access to like that not too long ago. The Facebook Meta and Twitter X AI algorithms for showing you what you want to see has shown that AI can be addicting, in my opinion. Yes, the problem is addiction. It's not the AI. There was plenty of things to be addicted to before AI. You could get addicted to gambling. You could get addicted to liquor, like drugs, gambling. These are traditional things that have, you know, addicted people. That is the only thing I'm seeing in this paper saying, well, being addicted and wasting your time is a bad thing on society. I agree, addiction is bad. But they haven't made any claim specific to artificial intelligence. But as you say, you can get addicted to the media, like the dopamine, like you doom scroll and you like get the dopamine hit of when you see a funny meme every so often. So that's fair. That may be a new form of addiction, but that's not like, it's like, again, that has nothing to do with what the author's saying here. Or it's just, it's tangential. Not nothing, but it's tangential. DeCarlism says, I'm also of the mind not to just look at the AI, tech AI as it'll either exploit us to death or get rid of work as we know it, holy pog, but also to just appreciate that in the change of robotics becoming more popular, we can find new things to do, new ways to seek freedom that weren't able to have before, find the cool useful shit that wasn't even possible to conceptualize before. Well, that's the hope, that we have new and cool stuff to do. Like, I like the idea of being able to send like stuff into outer space, that we might have a moon base, that we might have a base on Mars. That would be cool, and we're not going to get that without all the tech that we can come up with and putting it all together in cool new ways. And Unreal says, time that you enjoy wasting is not wasted. Exactly. And so it's one thing to be like addicted to something and be like, oh, I love this. It's another thing to be like, no, I had a good time checking out memes for like an hour. It's like, okay, you could have read a book and done something productive, but like not every moment of every day needs to be spent like better to your betterment. Like that's one of these overly like an overbearing ethics where you have to like always be like self-improving. No, you need a break. You need to turn your brain off. Like do something else. That's fine. Okay. Yeah, so they're just saying who gets the responsibility for these artificial intelligence things. We're still hashing this one out. Author says, in contrast, creating a legal or even public relations framework in which a robot can be blamed is like blaming the privates at Abu Ghraib for being bad apples. Yeah, this is a good point. You can't just be like, oh yeah, it was the robot's fault. It's like, no, you made the robot. DeCarlism says, degeneracy and debauchery is kind of fun sometimes. Yeah, I'm like, I don't have problems with these things. And so I don't like the over-moralization here. Lumpy says, but here's the upside. After spending some time online collecting interesting knowledge, I find that I have much better conversation skills. The internet fuels my ongoing conversation with Muffin and my close friends. Plus, it makes me feel part of the gang about human civilization and being aware of the news of the day. Yeah, like there's great upsides to these things too. And it's like, that's why I'm saying this is get off my lawn level shit here. They're just like, it's new and scary and it's not what we had in the past and that makes it bad. It's like, that's not a very good take in my opinion. DeCarlism says productivity is a silly concept anyways. I mean, it depends how it's applied. I mean, if you're at work and you're saying, well, how much did I get done this week? Then you can like have a productivity measure. But like, yeah, it's like, what are you actually using it for? It's like, how many papers did I write this year? I wrote a shit ton of stuff in the first 6 months of the year, and I did jack shit all of July, and probably I'm not going to do a whole lot during August, although I probably should have something ready in September to show. I might need something. So, but it's like, yeah. DeCarlism says, yes, contextualized. That's right. That's right. Yeah, so this is part of the issue. Is like you can't like blame the individuals when it's a systemic issue, and this is a good point. So like it's not a good idea to be like, all right, we're going to blame an individual AI, like that individual like AI driving car for the mistake. That's not right. You blame the engineer, the company that made the AI driving car if it gets into an accident, not the individual one. It's a systemic issue. But this paper is giving me 2010's row. The robots are running us out of town. Yeah, I mean that's what it is. It's like it's not. It's a little bit. Like I said, it feels old. Like it's been dated. Row, it's very scary. Yes, some of the apples are worse than others, and perhaps culpably so. But ultimate responsibility lies with the command chain that created the environment those privates operated in. Where the subject is machines we build and own, the responsible role of the organization is even clearer. We should never be talking about machines taking ethical decisions, but rather machines operated correctly within the limits we set for them. I can see no technological reason that people expect moral agency from an autonomous mobile gun when they do not expect it from automatic tellers, banking machines, ATMs, or conventional automatic dishwashers. Of course, shooting is more dangerous than cleaning, but that doesn't make guns more moral agents than sponges. As we increase the onboard sensing, action, and logic in these tools, can there really come a point where we may ourselves ethically abrogate responsibility for directing the taking of lives? In the author's opinion, no. Advanced weapon systems may seem exceptional, but I expect these technologies and issues will rapidly move into the civilian sector. I mean, yes. I mean, everyone has seen the what's it called? Boston Dynamics dogs, I'm sure. And that was around, I think, at this point. The Boston Dynamics dogs, like the first ones, were around, I think, by 2009. So, yeah. Someone says another way that is outdated. The author was clearly expecting AI to be program built rather than grown and unpredictable. Yeah. Nope, I'm wrong about that, Vipers? Okay, I thought the first of them was like 2006 or something. But okay. But yeah, so like we're starting to see these sorts of robots around. So this was the history of air flight, originally the domain of engineers and hobbyists. Once flight was conquered, it was immediately applied to warfare. Following World War I, the technology was quickly exploited by the creation of an industry for both business and leisure services. If we allow robots to bear their own responsibility for their behavior in foreign battlefields, we will soon face the same issues at home as we find them working in police forces and post offices. Yeah, so this is why like there are like these robot dogs now in some police forces. We do not have to wait for the presence of an advanced AI to see the consequences of passing responsibility away from humans. Consider existing automated or at least understaffed railway stations. Ordinarily, they work well, perhaps providing ticket services in more languages than a small rural station might otherwise provide. But when a train fails to make a scheduled stop at 6 on a Sunday morning, there is no one to apologize and provide replacement taxi service, making sure you get to the airport for your flight. Yeah, I mean, this is part of the issue, is when everything is based on the computers, there's no fallback systems if it's not designed to have that built in. And that's a problem nowadays. Things are rigid. When things break, it's very hard to like fix the problem because the system is not meant to break. It just doesn't work. At the national and institutional level, this is the moral hazard of being too generous with personhood. Not only does automation save in staff costs, but also it reduces corporate responsibility for service from the level of reasonable capacity of a human to that of a machine. Yeah, so what was it? The CrowdStrike outage. And that wasn't AI. That was a security update failure. That knocked out a lot of airports and travel stuff, and there was no way to fix it. And so that's what they're saying here. But again, this has nothing to do with AI, that sort of thing. But the CrowdStrike, which may have been the single worst in terms of economic cost bug in like history, it's like, yeah, we couldn't undo the problem because it needed human intervention, and it was extremely costly. Okay. Further, the capacities of a machine are largely determined by those who choose how much they will pay for it. At the personal level, the moral hazard is choosing less rich and less fulfilling social interactions with a robot over those with a human. Well, I mean, again, which human? Not everyone is a fulfilling interaction, just because robotic interactions are more predictable and less risky. If you do something stupid in front of a robot, you can delete the event from its memory. Not always. Who has control of the memory? If you are tired of a robot or just want to go to bed early, you don't need to ask its opinion. You can just turn it off. Is this person in a bad like relationship that they're angry that they can't be like, I want to go to bed now, and they have to like stay up? I don't know. While there may be people and institutions for whom such automated services are the only available option, the question is how many will be tempted unnecessarily into being less responsible and productive members of society. Again, with the productivity issue here. Like, really, who are you to say what counts as being a productive member of society? Granted, I bet the people who, like, you know, no one really wants to be like locked in their room just like doom scrolling the internet all the time. It doesn't sound good. I could be wrong about this, but like this is not like their claim here is unjustified. Yeah, exactly, and it's like this is these arguments here are unjustified. As with the level of government welfare benefits, there probably is no ideal target of level faux humanism. Yeah, see, this is just very sort of conservative, like, oh my god, welfare queens are living off everyone else's work. It's like, screw you. Yeah, who's living off all the tax breaks? Not like poor people. It's the big businesses getting all the tax breaks. There's no target level of faux humanism we can provide in a robot that both helps everyone who really needs assistance while not tempting anyone away from social contribution who does not. Again, are we required by the government to like be what this person considers a productive member of society? I don't think so. I don't know what this person thinks of society. Finding the appropriate level then is difficult, but my claim is that at least in the case of robotics, the level will be found more easily by providing accurate public information. Carlism says, if I had library access, I'd probably be looking for studies comparing AI psychological telehealth and human psychological telehealth and seeing if there's substantial difference. Oh, I think I've seen this. There's definitely stuff out there. You can Google this. There is definitely stuff about telehealth and like interacting with certain things. There's also studies that show that just going to the doctor's office has a placebo effect on its own. That like you think the care is better and you act like the care is better just by being in the office. And so like what the one thing they were saying is like maybe you could have like a VR headset where it makes you feel like you're going to the doctor's office. And now I expect in the future, as like telehealth gets more universal, we won't have the whole like feeling that going to the doctor's office is significant, but like there's definitely something to it. Viper says, while there were prototypes in the mid-2000s, they didn't really make it into the mainstream until 2012 because they weren't impressive at all. It was only after the Fukushima disaster when DARPA launched a robotics competition because the environment was too hazardous for emergency workers and the landscape too chaotic for robots to navigate that they started becoming interesting. I didn't know that was the history. Going to the doctor's office exposes you to germs from 6 people. Yes, but like again, the whole experience of the doctoring matters to how you feel and how you act in response to the care you get. Lumpy says, well, yes, human relationships require effort and communications and compromise. Pet love is easy. You don't ask the pet's opinions. This is why so many love their pet. The pet won't complain about their owner's fault. I humbly predict that some people will prefer to have AI relationships because they can be turned off at a whim. Yeah, well, that's what they're saying. But like, again, they're saying that you can't have this because it's at the expense of society and we need like the babies, you know, why aren't you having enough babies to like keep up the population? It's like, well, shit. It's like people are not doing it because we have no money, and it's like it's a lot simpler to have an AI. It's like, yeah, but again, if this is like, they're like, oh no, AI is going to ruin our society. It's like, no, society was bad, and that's why people are using AI, because we can't handle like it's the easy solution when everything else is crappy. So yeah, DeCarlism says, bro, AR telehealth is the Jetsons' future. Yeah. I mean, I think it's good. All right, so getting the metaphor right. So this is what they think. Why, if robots are so hazardous, well, why is technology so hazardous is really the whole thing of the paper here. If robots are so hazardous, should we want to include them in our lives? Because servants have the potential to be useful. When there was greater income disparity in the UK and domestic chores such as cooking were far more time consuming, human servants were much more common. Laslett found that approximately 30% of all households had servants in a set of British villages surveyed from 1574 to 1821. At that time, tasks such as cooking and cleaning for even a moderately sized family could take 2 people 12 hours a day, every day. Where wives and other kin were not available to devote their full time to these tasks, outside employees were essential. Yeah. That's funny, Brian. Poor kitty. More kibble for Brian's cat. And maybe even some catnip. Okay, contemporary cooking and cleaning takes far less time than in the days before electricity, gas, or running water. Nevertheless, many aspects of food preparation are still often outsourced. Now, though, this work is done in factories by agricultural labor or in restaurants rather than by in-home domestic servants. The European Commission has chosen to invest heavily in cognitive systems for domestic robots, partly due to anticipated foreign demand and perceived local expertise, but also in an effort to increase the productivity of its own workforce. Again, with the productivity arguments. Anyone who has worked recently with robots know that robots are unlikely to be deployed dusting plants or cleaning fine china in the near future. Yeah, so this is before Roombas and iRobot and all that stuff. Yeah, so the most likely initial introduction for domestic robots will be to partially or totally replace expensive human help in tasks that require less real-time planning and dexterity. Examples are physical support for the infirm, minders and tutors for children, and personal assistance for those with challenged working memory capacity, whether that challenge is due to disease or distraction. Note that none of these applications require anthropoid robots. DeCarlton says, in before robots are being deployed to clean fine china and dust. Yeah, exactly. Like, we like cleaning robots seem to be like our favorite things, actually. I mean, yeah. Brian says, I doused a toy in some catnip. That cat won't give her the beatus. That won't give her the beatus. Yes, that's fair. The cat beatus. Lumpy says, the model of the current nuclear family might not survive. The shit women had to put up with because there was no other life model is too great. The simple idea that adult pairs should live together at all time could be revisited. Yeah. This is exactly the issue nowadays, and this is why people are like the conservators are freaking out. What they thought society was is not the way society actually is going, and this is making them lose their mind because, you know, well, when things change, it's scary, and they were like, well, we had these great lives, what they thought were great lives, and they're seeing like that sort of life that they knew slip away from them. But it's like, so what? Were things really so great in the past? And the answer is usually not. It was great if you were rich, but like everyone else had a shitty life comparatively. So it's like, this is not how things, like, this is why people are like, the nuclear family, like traditional marriage. It's like, shut the fuck up. That was only good in a very small set of the population anyway. Especially if you had money. Okay. In fact, a personal assistant might take the form of a personality, and I'm not even saying anything against it. Like, it'll work for lots of people still. Like, that's fine. I'm just saying it doesn't necessarily have to keep going that way. Like, pick an era that there was probably a major war that was ravaging somewhere. Oh, yes. There's been, like, people are nasty things. We fight constantly. It's like the, like, idea that there was, like, some, like, good era that was, like, nice just means they don't really know enough history. Usually. Go ask Shane about that. Okay. In fact, a personal assistant might take the form of a personality-based video interface for a smart home. Avatars for the AI might flicker to the nearest fixed screen location when called. AI may monitor embedded household sensors for danger, injury, or just a forgotten lunch. Yeah, I mean, there are fall sensors now. That's a good thing. Like, my grandma had one of those, like, necklaces, like you push the button and like it calls for help or whatever. I mean, that's not an AI, that's a radio, but like these things are good. Like, and fall sensors are cool. In homes with more than one occupant, a variety of personalities can use the same infrastructure, each serving their own user. In author's opinion, communicating the model of robot as slave is the best way to both to get full utility from these devices and to avoid the moral hazards mentioned in the previous sections. Of course, some people will still talk to their robots, some people talk to their plants, and others to their doorknobs. But those people have neighbors and relatives who know that the plants and doorknobs don't understand. This support network can help their overly conversant relatives or friend keep that fact somewhere in their minds. Yeah, so again, this is like, oh yeah, you're just an idiot talking to doorknobs. It's like, we have really good language models now. They have better conversation maybe than you do. Similarly, our task is not to stop people from naming or petting their robots. Our task is to ensure that the majority of people understand that the robots are just machines and that one should spend money and time on them as is appropriate to their utility, but not much more. It's called mythologizing the past for a reason, yeah. Like, yes, but not. It gets a lot fucking stickier when the robot does understand you and does answer. Yeah, I don't think it actually understands anything at the moment. I'm still on the robots don't understand. But, like, you can have what appears to be, like, a good conversant, like, conversation. I can't speak. Conversation, like, with it responding with relevant information now. And that's not a problem. And that is actually super useful depending on what you're doing. And so, like, you might not be looking for a deep conversation. You might just be looking for any conversation on a topic you don't know about, and that it's like the chat GPTs are good for this sort of thing. It's like, summarize this thing for me, and then you can ask some questions, and that's good. It's great. Lumpy says the trad wife online fad is so wrong. Young women willingly give up their financial independence to cosplay as a little house on the prairie is so weird and cultish. Yes, it is. But some astutely suggest that it's a backlash against the productivity grind mindset. Ironically, most of these trad wives are on the Instagram treadmill. Yeah, I think it's definitely reactionary against like contemporary stuff, but you find out these people are like from lots of money or like whatever. You need a lot of money to just sit home and like do that. And believe me, I'm not against having a cool house or like having a traditional life. That's fine. But like the idea that like you're like what are you actually getting out of it? You have to go into this stuff knowing, and like when they're taking pictures of themselves, then they're really influencers and they're playing a role, as you said. It's dumb. Yeah, like who's like how financially like, and like you said, if you're giving up your financial independence, then you're just trapping yourself into a weird world. Nicholasm says, yeah, understanding is a weird concept. Like they don't understand the way that we understand, but it doesn't have to be useful. Exactly. I don't think the LLMs of the current AIs of the day understand like we do, but there are other benefits to it. And diabetes cat. Oh, is this your kitty? Or is it just any diabetes cat? Ooh, oh. This is AI diabetes cat. This looks like Walter Brimley. Yeah, it's Brimley cat. That's funny. Diabetes. Thank you for the AI. That's one mean-looking cat. I mean, do you know who Walter Brimley is, Lumpy? I don't know if you had those ads in where you are, but here in the States, we had this older actor, and he was advocating for some diabetes medication. He was like, diabetes. And so that's the joke from Unreal Brian, is the diabetes cat. So it looks like that actor. Yeah. You know the arc of the diabetes ads? Okay, yeah. Piper says, at best AI can understand how words relate to each other, but it's just the words, yeah. Language is a symbolic system we can use to describe reality, but it's not actual reality. It's like Plato's cave. Yeah, so again, what the AI does, it does very well now. Is it what we do? Not exactly. That's okay. So it's like, but we can still use it as a tool, which is great. Yeah, through Family Guy. Okay. Yeah. It became a cultural phenomenon. So yeah, you'll see it in popular media like cartoons. Okay. So yeah, author saying, look, don't overblow whatever the tech is. And that's a fine conclusion. I don't really like how they argued for it, but whatever. We're just about to the, oh no, we got a few more pages still. Okay. Where was I? Yeah. Of course, some people may, for a variety of personal, historical, or cultural reasons, object to having any form of servant or slave in their home. In that case, there's another metaphor that might be useful, that of the extended mind. Yeah, so talking about mind stuff. If the robot has no goals except for those it assumes from you, then there are rational arguments to be made that the robot is just an extension of yourself. Yeah, and see, this is going back to just their technology argument. That's all that is that this is a technology. And that's part of my issue with this paper, is that everything they argued is just a technology argument. It has nothing to do with AI. DeCarlin says, like, a virtual brain shouldn't be the goal anyways. Just make a tool you can use for something. Yeah, it's all technology here. Author has previously made an analogous argument that the semantic web should be viewed neither as a giant database nor as a set of agents to be knitted together in a complex democratic community in order to provide a simple service. Rather, the semantic web should be thought of as snippets of intelligence that can be used to augment the capabilities of a user's own AI personal assistant. Yeah, so that's like sort of adding metadata to all the information online. That was what the semantic web was. I don't know if it ever got used. Only the personal assistant has a motivational structure, and this inherits from the goals of its user. It is a fairly simple extension of this argument to say that the digital personal assistant itself could be considered an extension of the user. Our goals, beliefs, perception, and capacity for action can all be extended or made more reliable through a range of robotic servants, or if one prefers, services. Yeah, this is just technology. They haven't said anything other than that. In extending what we do and know, robots could also be seen to extend who we are. Don't we owe robots anything? If servants are such a great idea, shouldn't we just hire more human ones? To some extent, we already do. Our economy has a large service component. Many tasks that 100 years ago were performed by live-in servants are now largely performed by strangers outside the home, such as food preparation and clothes manufacture. Other tasks are already performed, at least in large part by machines, such as washing laundry, mowing the lawn, or keeping in an appointment calendar. Bro, what a take on you just physically whiplashed? Yeah. Yeah, this is a bit of like dated and an old school view of things. The poor are richer now than they once were. Virginia Woolf paid her live-in servant only 1% of her annual income, about £4,000. Even a part-time domestic servant who is willing to take 1% of a modern professional salary would be unlikely to do many things that could not be better done with machines or outside services. Yeah, this is a weird strange argument. It's like, oh yeah, the economy was different back then, so they got paid differently. Like, that doesn't justify anything. Yeah, why have robots when we can just hire people to do the alienating slop work? Yeah, exactly. But the point is that we have outsourced it from domestic help to the economy at large. Like, you can buy pre-made food from the supermarket or whatever, and you don't have a live-in chef that does that anymore. Okay, now the service industry is clearly not your servants. They are people working for money. But, like, it's a sort of a weird view. Yeah, it's unusual. Hey, what's up, K-Pars? Nobody can cut and stack papers as good as me. Oh, man, you have no idea how much paperwork I've gone through in my life. A lot. So they argue in favor of exploiting humans as a more natural thing. I don't think I just think they say we do this already. This is what we do. Like, we are already paying people to cook food for us, like in a restaurant. They're not our servants, but we pay people to cook for us. So it's like, it's still a thing. It's just we conceive of it different now. DeCarlism, I worked as an imaging specialist at a document storage facility. It was your most radicalizing experience. Yeah, well, you do a shitty job, and not like you're working poorly. You're working in a job that is a shitty position. You will start to realize how dumb everything is. I work in a job where I interface with lots of big companies at different points, and they suck. And the idea that business is efficient is laughable. Like, so much stupid bullshit. So, it's like, don't be telling me that, oh yeah, business is efficient, like people are smart. Nah, man. Nah. Like, and so it's like, just because this is how it is or was, it has nothing to do with how things should be. Like, so much waste. Okay, but the most difficult thing with human servants is, of course, the fact that they really are humans with their goals, desires, interests, and expectations, which they deserve to be able to pursue. Humans living and working together, but set not as each other's equals, are often vulnerable to frustration and exploitations. Computers are real fucking smart too, Chief? Yeah, well, there's something. But what about robots? Wouldn't they feel frustrated? Wouldn't they be exploited and abused? Remember, robots are wholly owned and designed by us. We determine their goals and desires. A robot cannot be frustrated unless it is given goals that cannot be met. It cannot mind being frustrated unless we program it to perceive frustration as distressing rather than as an indication of a planning puzzle. Sorry. Yeah, heartburn. A robot can be abused just as a car, piano, or couch can be abused. It can be damaged in a wasteful way. But again, there's no particular reason it should be programmed to mind such treatment. It might be sensible to program robots to detect and report such ill treatment, and possibly to even avoid its abuser until its owner has been notified, assuming the abuser is not the owner. But there's no reason to make a robot experience suffering as part of the program to generate such behavior, even if making a robot suffer were technically plausible, which seems unlikely. Owners should not have ethical obligations to robots that are their sole property beyond those that society defines as common sense and decency and would apply to any artifact. We do not particularly approve of people destroying rare cars with sledgehammers, but there is no law against such behavior. If a robot happened to be a unique piece of fine art, then we would owe it the same obligations we owe other pieces of art. Viper says if they ever create robots with personalities, they'll probably be cringe as fuck and talk like bootlickers on LinkedIn. I mean, no, they'll talk like racists online because that's usually where they are created. And so basically they talk like, like racist, edgy kids. But like that's what every time we make a chatbot, that's what happens. Like ones that are trained online. Decarlism, yeah, and I mean the chat GPT needs a lot of limitations to be put on it to that they have to put a lot of like blocks in to prevent you from getting it to say things that they don't want to say. Decarlism says, but even if still from growing the AI programming it when it responds negatively, is actually feeling that in some kind of way, or is it mimicking that from the data that tells it ought to react so? I mean, what do you mean by feeling there? I mean that the machine learning is a mechanical procedure. Does the computer you're using right now to use Twitch feel anything about it, or is it just following the operating system and programs that are in it? So like anything that like learns in terms of machine learning is just following a certain procedure and moving like the ones and zeros around. So I don't see how it is actually like feeling it. Vipers make sense. You were also trying to line. Yep. Chuckleman says some say animal abuse is sort of a predictor of child abuse and other inhuman acts. So against the robot might be act like animals. Yeah, they do say that. But the problem is a lot of people play like violent games. Like people were saying that about Grand Theft Auto. People can make the distinction between violence in video games and to things that don't actually feel versus things that do feel like animals and people and stuff like that. So like that, people understand that distinction. Of course, there'll be some people that don't, but for the most part, like playing a game like Grand Theft Auto does not indicate any sort of violent behavior in like the rest of their life. Yeah, Decolum says, yeah, I do that. What do I mean? That's sort of the rub there, yeah. Viper says, you're talking about the Chinese room? Yeah, stuff like, that's the mind stuff, yeah. I think Kant would make that argument if were he around. Yeah, well. Fuck Kant. Decolum says, I played GTA and now I impulsively ran over full service sex workers on the street and steal shotguns from police cars. I can't help myself. Exactly. Okay. K-Pars plus a lot of the studies on violence in video games use simple punishments like making your opponent eat hot sauce. Well, there you go. Yeah, so what does that stuff actually mean in the end? We don't know yet. We just don't know. Oh yeah, the classic quote. This is hilarious though. If you people haven't seen this one. You mean, if Pac-Man had affected us as kids, we'd all be running around in dark rooms, munching pills and listening to repetitive electronic music. And so someone was saying, like, well, did games really, like, change your lives? And someone was saying, like, this was like a 90s quote or something. He said, well, if Pac-Man had affected us, what would we be doing? But, of course, a lot of us are doing that. Okay. The robot should be utterly replaceable. Yeah, no one should ever need to hesitate an instant deciding whether to save a human or a robot from a burning building. The robot should be utterly replaceable. Further, robot owners should know their robots do not suffer and will never die, even if the rest of their owner's possessions are destroyed. If the robot's brain states, memories, and experiences are stored off-site, it may need some retraining if there is a new domicile to inhabit or slight variations between bodies, but such robots could then be viewed as reliable extensions of their owners. Chocolate says the abused robot might learn something or other if you left its learning on. It might. But again, how much? Like, what was the programming? Like, will something just continue to learn and learn new things, or only what it was programmed to learn? Kind of thing. Decolorism, how to talk to your dog about existentialism and warehouse raves, type B. Yeah. Play a lot of Frogger, now you jaywalk. What are you gonna do? Alright. Yeah. Robots should not be anthropoid if that can be helped. Yeah, so we've seen this claim before too, because it says if you don't want people to get like the wrong idea about stuff, so you should make them actually not look like people. And their owners should have access to robots' program level interface as well as its more socially oriented one. This will help owners form a more accurate, less human model for reasoning about their assistive agents. We do then have obligations regarding robots, but not really to them. Robots are tools, unlike any other artifact when it comes to the domain of ethics. We can use these tools to extend our abilities and increase our efficiency in a way analogous to the way a large proportion of professional society historically used to extend their own abilities in servants. Their own abilities with servants. But robots can provide fewer ethical and logistical hazards. Hopefully we can continually increase the number of robot owners in our society, so an even smaller proportion of everyone's time can be spent on mundane or repetitive tasks, assuming that the potential owners don't enjoy those tasks. With ubiquitous robot slaves, a larger proportion of time and resources can be spent on useful processes, including socializing with our colleagues, family, and neighbors. Vipers play a lot of Sonic, and I lose all your money when interacting with anything. Well, there we go. I think that's just modern society. Conclusions. Why do people want robots to be peers? Is it perhaps because they want a peer that will never argue, or at least never be smug when it wins? A fairy godparent smarter than themselves that they can nevertheless ultimately boss around and pen up like a pet dog? If so, such narcissism is probably mostly harmless and perhaps a good thing for the dogs. But in a liberal democracy, we tend to think of every citizen's life and mind as a valuable resource. Wasting that resource socializing with artifacts would be a great loss. Yeah, K-Pars, under certain definitions, absolutely. But again, it's very single-use robot. It makes toast. Lumpy says, I can picture Viper grabbing a pint of beer and a bunch of small coins and explode outwards. That seems like a daily occurrence. Robots should rather be viewed as tools we use to extend our own abilities and to accelerate progress on our own goals. An autonomous robot definitionally incorporates its own internal motivational structure and decision mechanisms, but we choose those motivations and design the decision-making system. All their goals are derived from us. I have argued here that robots are often overly personified. First, this is because of our desire to have the power of creating life. They didn't argue that, they referenced some random dude that said this. Second is because we are not certain what it means to be human, so we currently offer the term to anything that senses, acts, remembers, and speaks. Yeah, that was the Dennett argument. Given the errors in dehumanization that have been broadly made in the very recent past, in fact sometimes in the present, the desire to avoid such mistakes is laudable. Yet, ironically, extending the title human to something which is not only serves to further devalue real humanity. Again, who gets to define what counts as real humanity? And I think that must be the Kantian claim earlier. Ivanio says robot manufacturers should ensure their eyes glow red when the robots turn evil. That's a very good point. How else are we going to know this? Be honest, would you buy a sex bot? Yeah, sure, why the fuck not? I mean, how good is it? There, you get my vote yes. Like, it'd be like, you know, if it was not expensive and like worked, it'd be like, well, okay. It'd be just one more thing to try in the world that's new and different. Would I keep it? I don't know. How good at sex is it? But like try one, like go try something. We already have lots of sex toys. What's the difference between a very sophisticated one? Now, what if it's like replacing a human? That might be excessive, but like, yeah. Yeah, yeah, so there's a poll in chat. Everyone go answer the poll. There we go. Okay, the object of this chapter has been to persuade roboticists and robotophiles. Now, while this industry is in its early stages, that calling robots a moral agent is not only false but an abrogation of our own responsibility. I have also demonstrated that these problems are already in our society, in the current research funding for ethical battlefield robots, and in the commercial exploitation of human empathy for artificial characters. My conclusion is that we are obliged not to the robots, but to our society. We are obliged to educate consumers and producers alike to their real obligations with respect to robotics. Unreal Brian says sex bot, but it'll be connected to the internet and the company will sell your data. See, that's creepy, but like you're absolutely right. If there is any internet connected sex bot, then the chance of them getting the data is like almost guaranteed on some models. Maybe you'll have to pay extra that they don't send the data back, but it's like, how would that not be like an inevitable thing where they're trying to, for, quality assurance purposes? I feel like there's an oxymoron that was lost on the author regarding ethicalness and war battlefields. Yeah. What commercial value does that have, though? I mean, which features of the sex bot are being used the most? And how to improve the features. Like if there's a feature that's not being used, then why would they include it in future models if no one cares about it? And then yeah, Lumpy says like ransom shame. But anyway, now that we've finally got through this paper, we get to rate it. And so what we do here is we use emotes. Everyone in chat gets to use these are better TTV emotes, so everyone can like use them and see them. If you have the better TTV extension installed, probably the like Franker face probably works too. But brain dance is if this had fun ideas and makes the brain dance. Nog scream if it had existential or artistic drama. Nog aura for deep ancient ideas. Nog knife for slicing and dicing arguments. Nog navel was this navel gazing only for other academics. Nog turd all style no substance. And Nog grapes for big claims that shrivel up. Then there's also the global vote yay, vote meh, and vote nay. So vote yay is a thumbs up. You liked it, thought it was good. Vote nay is thumbs down, and vote meh is in the middle. And basically anything in the green is going to push I have overall scores. And so just you can conceive of all the ones on the top as making the overall score going up, and all the ones in the bottom in the red go down, and the meh makes it in the middle. So DeCarlism gave it a nay. Grapes and a turd. Vipers gave it a knife, a grapes, and a meh. Unreal Brian gave it a meh, a scream, and a grapes. I think I'm with the grapes definitely here. They made claims and then they sort of hand waved at their claims. They were just kind of like making these big ideas and stuff. So this one's definitely Lumpy missed on the scream. I can fix that if you don't do it. But yeah, small N, capital S. What are you on, mobile? Yeah. So, camel case, yep. There we go. Thank you, Lumpy. I'm definitely going to give it some grapes. There you go. Not grapes. Get 2. And you can always double up on the emotes so that the bait got you in and then it was predictably shite. Yeah, the title was good. The overall the rhetoric was kind of clever at times about this stuff, but I just don't think the claims held up. It did have a little bit of, I don't know, let's see, how are we going to think about this? I don't think the ideas were like anything that clever. It wasn't that bad, but, this is a very vote meh. I'm going to with the vote meh on this too. But I mean, I feel like it wasn't a terrible article. They did some decent job. I'll give it the Nog scream, I think. So, yeah. If you have an AI robot friend, it is going to respond exactly like you would want a good friend too. It will be inherently addicting as well as having discussed with media you like. I think this is a good argument to treat robots like tools and not like equals that would control us through this addiction, psychological control. Yeah, Nefidus, we've read other stuff in this area before, and that has been made clearer in other papers. Basically, the fact that it's going to like glom on to the things you like and basically be able to customize and like an addictive sort of online experience for you, and that will just like make you keep coming back, and that will that as an addiction is a bad thing. And of course, that's what, all these online websites are trying to do, like with their algorithm, be it like YouTube, TikTok, even Twitch sometimes, like presenting you with different streams that it thinks you want. It's trying to get you to always come back to the site and watch more ads. So that's kind of how it goes. Did this article do that? This article, I think, is too old. I think they didn't realize the sophistication of the AI algorithms based on your browsing history, and so they just use this general technological, oh my god, you're going to get distracted by it, and they didn't really understand the specific dangers of the AI. I think that's just like I said, not exactly the author's fault. They didn't see this far into the future, but that's not really to blame on them. This is 15 years ago or something. Decolorism says, fine article. I think the author is bluntly wrong on a bunch of their predictions have equally flopped. Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, if you want to get in with some of the ratings, I appreciate it. But, yeah. Unreal says, spent a bit of time watching through a video essay about Replica, and there were a bunch of people with real withdrawal when they took away the romantic sexual features of the AI friends. Yeah, so there was an AI bot that people were using as a sexual, partner, and, it fucked people up when they took that away. So, yeah. And the robots aren't going to dust and clean dishes. I was in before Roombas and dishwashers. Exactly. Well, they were saying not the fine shine. They were talking about the very... they didn't understand Roombas yet, which is, terrible. But, they were saying, oh, it's not going to dust, things that are, expensive. But, basically, yeah, it can now. So, it's yeah. Viper says, this is my robot buddy. Took me down the far right rabbit hole. Is that right, Adolf? Yeah. Exactly. So, and it's going to get, and that's the other thing. They didn't realize that they could customize political messaging to have political, what is it? Direction, change your political views so that they could customize the sorts of messaging per person to get you to, see different media and hear different viewpoints that they want to get you to change your viewpoints on certain, political issues. And so this is a matter of social and political control.